sees the memes of production, and the like and subscribe button. I've always hated the idea that you should like a piece of art because it's progressive or because it agrees with your politics. Like, Disco Elysium isn't amazing because it's lefty, okay? Disco Elysium is amazing because it's amazing, and also it happens to be lefty. There are things that have implicitly right-wing politics that I still think are great. The Incredibles, right? The sort of Randian argument that some people are innately better than others and they should be allowed to roam free to use their gifts and not be stopped by lesser people who are jealous, envious of their abilities. It's still a phenomenal movie, right? You know, you don't have to... So many people are like, oh, watch Andor, it's lefty. F you. Okay, let's just talk about the thing. Superman was probably like the best superhero movie. I've always loved Superman, okay? I love good things. I love kindness. I love America. All right. I love his little hair lick. Superheroes are an American thing, after all. We came up with them. This is an American thing. The superhero comic. It's Americana, right? And Superman is the most superhero that there is. There's no getting around that. And, all right, no, I'm tuning out. I want to watch it, actually. Oh, there you go. No, listen, it was really, really, really good, okay? Really, really good. Best superhero movies, a pretty low bar, TBH? No, it's not. There are some excellent superhero movies. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, phenomenal. The Batman, phenomenal. The original Superman. What was your favorite previously? Probably Spider-Man 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is extremely good. Spider-Verse is very good. But for me, Superman is probably my favorite. Probably my favorite. Anyway, I hate talking about the politics of something that I love. Your taste is horrible? Well, one second. Nice bait. Was it worth it? Guardians 2 was ass? You people are insane. Are you kidding me? Guardians 2? Are you mixing it up in your head with Guardians 3? You need to put a lid on it. Superman was literally invented by a Canadian. I know you're not engaging in like this kind of ethnic preferentialism on whether or not something's American. It was in America. Well, you think a person moving to America to get a fresh start and producing culture within America, that's American. Who the fuck cares where they came from? It wouldn't matter where in the world they came from. Jesus. Anyway, also it's Superman. Anyway, phenomenal movie. Also very, very left-leaning. I loved how anti-cynical it was. I loved how optimistic it was. I love the fact that it's, you know, what's the line? Finding everything beautiful is punk rock. Just a fantastic movie. But I want to talk about the politics because, like, I gotta say, it's really, really good. But I do love what they did with Superman in terms of his naivete and his engagement with the, sort of the political conundrum. This is spoilers, but I have the thing up. So what do you do? Like, if you're listening to me, you want the spoilers, okay? Or you've already seen it, you know? The central conflict politically, leaving aside Lex Luthor, the political conflict is... the fictitious, because in DC they make stuff up all the time. The fictitious country of Baravia wants to invade a neighbor. Baravia is a dictatorship, an ally to the United States, and we have like extensive arms treaties with them, you know? And the other country they're invading, the name of which I'm currently forgetting, one of you please remind me of it, is not an ally of the United States, not anywhere near as wealthy, Jahanpur, thank you, and is largely Arab coded. I'm gonna be real, and you just have to watch the movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm not gonna spend all the time assembling this for you. It was the most obvious Israel-Palestine dynamic I've ever seen established in fiction, and that's not an exaggeration. I genuinely don't know how more on the nose they could have possibly... Yeah, if they had done a line about how Baravia was promised to Baravians 3,000 years ago, that might have like tipped it over a little more. Dude, okay, I saw a Hassan clip where he was making this point, and I have to agree with him. The leader of Baravia, this motherfucker right here, Gurkos, I think his name is, the one with the crazy hair. He's not a very sympathetic character. Looks like Ben Gurion a little bit, the first prime minister of Israel. The flag of Baravia is like blue and white with an almost centrally featured star. It's not a Hebrew star, but, you know, though funnily it also has an element of the Palestinian flag. It has like the tricolored triangle coming from one side, but it's blue and white. The people in Baravia speak with Eastern European accents. They have like a Slavic kind of like Russian tone to them, whereas the people in Jahanpur are extremely Arab coded. They're much more brown. They're much poorer. they're wearing like colorful robes. It's not meant to be like a specific direct like this is Arab clothing, but like come on. Yeah, they literally said Jarhanpur is not exactly friendly to us too, alluding to them doing something bad. There was a point where Lois Lane said, but you know, Baravia maintains they're not invading Jahanpur, they're just liberating the Jahanpurians from their oppressive leaders, to which Superman says, but you don't believe that, and Lois Lane indicates she doesn't really believe that. It was really good. But basically, the movie opens with Superman having intervened in this conflict and stopping Baravia from invading their neighbor. I'm just going to say Israel and Palestine. It was such an obvious XP. I'm not going to keep saying Jahanpur and Baravia. I'm just going to say Israel and Palestine. Superman stepped in and stopped Israel from invading Palestine, right? And there's been a bunch of fallout from that. And at one point, Lois Lane grills Superman and asks him a bunch of probing questions about what he did and why he did it. And the takeaway from the interview, which is a very like tense scene between the two of them, they know Lois Lane knows that Superman's Clark Kent, they're dating. The takeaway from the scene is that Superman is extremely well-intentioned, loves life and wants to protect it, but also doesn't really understand or care about the nuances of geopolitics. It seems like Lois was frustrated at his naivete, that you can't, like, as a lone individual metahuman, a superhero, to go across the world and stop a country from engaging in an invasion. There are consequences to these things. And Superman's answer is basically just, well, what was I supposed to do? Let people die, which is perfectly in character for him. But Lois is frustrated because she wants him to be more aware of what that means, like to like be aware of the consequences. Okay, so that's the opening line, not the opening like dialogue, but it's the opening, I guess, conflict between Lois Lane and Superman. The idea that his goodness is naive, right? It's not tempered by an understanding of what he's doing, and it sets, for me at least, the expectation I have going into it is that the conflict emotionally for Superman is going to be cynicism and naivete, and how to like walk the tightrope between, you know, how do you be a Boy Scout? How do you be Superman, the most like earnest, straightforward, kind-hearted guy in superheroing, right? Canonically, everyone's like, oh my God, this Boy Scout, you know, how do you do that, but also navigate something as complicated and difficult and cynical, naturally cynical as Israel invading Palestine? You know, it's difficult. And I was worried that they were going to continue with that conflict and that was going to be the main through line, right? But they don't. And I love how they handle this. So obviously, it's Israel and Palestine, and the central conflict is around how Lex Luthor is using the Israel-Palestine conflict to manipulate world events, set Superman up for a big fall. I'm not going to talk about everything, but that's the gist of it. Lex Luthor was great, Superman was great, Lois Lane was great, Mr. Terrific was great, Guy Gardner was great, Hawkgirl was great, everyone was good. Phenomenal movie, and you should watch it for the quality, not for the politics, but the politics are great too. However, Superman faces a bunch of consequences for interfering with the invasion of Palestine from Israel. For one, he gets his ass beat by the Hammer of Baravia. For two, he gets a bunch of hate online from people who are sympathetic to Baravia and who are just critical of him in general. For three, he gets the Pentagon suspicious of him because the Pentagon doesn't like the idea of a lone superhuman being able to just interfere in foreign affairs like that. There are also political consequences because the leader of Baravia is essentially saying, and this is true, he was threatened with and torture by Superman, and it's outrageous that one person can intervene with, you know, his invasion of Palestine. Basically, like, a bunch of consequences start building, and as they build and as public pressure mounts on Superman, Superman eventually gets his rights taken away. A warrant for his arrest is put out because people are suspicious of him for reasons that are mostly set up by Lex Luthor but exacerbated by recent events. He's arrested, his rights are taken away, and as it turns out, all of the consequences that Superman has been facing because he interfered with that invasion, all of them were orchestrated by Lex Luthor. So on one level, Lex Luthor has been working with the Prime Minister of Israel to mount justification for this war because Lex Luthor wants some of the captured territory. But also, Lex Luthor is manufacturing all of the online hate against Superman too. or at least a lot of it. And also, Lex Luthor is keeping in close ties with the Pentagon in order to sort of manufacture a sense of discontent and anxiety over the ability for Superman to represent the interests of human beings. Lex Luthor has created the consequences, right? And in the climax of the movie, two things are happening at once. On one hand, Lex Luthor is about to destroy Metropolis for reasons. It's a good movie. On the other hand, oh, by the way, Lex Luthor is just Elon. He's explicitly described as a techno-fetishist with a cult of people who believe that he's going to bring about the like next wave of humanity. He's like an MIC associated, like tech fetishized. Obviously, the difference being that he's actually intelligent and Elon isn't. But the bit there with like, he's going to use that section of captured Palestine to build like a techno empire. It was Elon on Mars shit. You know what I mean? It was 100% Elon Musk wants to build the hyper empire on Mars, the tech empire on Mars. And yeah, no, it was very Peter Thiel-like as well. He was like a representation of this like Palantir adjacent Silicon Valley tech billionaire like freak. Like that was the vibe he gave off the whole time. I think they did wonderfully too. He wasn't doing that Jesse Eisenberg style like nebbish little nerd, like college nerd or whatever. He came across as like scary evil. And I think he nailed it well. He was inhuman. They were like, we're going to make this Lex completely unsympathetic. We are going to make him look like a like demon. We're gonna make him a demon, and they made him a demon. Anyway, the final conflict, right? The big climax of the movie is what two things are happening. Lex Luthor is gonna destroy Metropolis, and Boravia, Israel, is invading Jarhanpur again. And there's a very moving scene that everybody's talking about online where there's a brown child in the middle of the invasion surrounded by like civilians resisting a mechanized armored invasion from Boravia, from Israel, where in a desperate attempt to save his life and the life of his family and friends, he like raises a makeshift Superman flag to call Superman in to stop them a second time, you know? And it's very moving, and a bunch of people in the theater were choking up, and I teared up at it. It was very, very good. And the problem is that both of these things are happening at once. Metropolis being destroyed and the invasion happening. And Superman is like, I'm going to stop the invasion. And Mr. Terrific is like, the planet is going to break if you don't stop what's going on in Metropolis. You need to get your ass down there. There's a long period where after that, a bunch of establishing information and the consequences of these two conflicts build up. Multiple minutes where you don't see Superman. You don't see where he's going, right? Eventually, after a while, you see him arrive in Metropolis. It's like kind of like bittersweet because you know he needs to be there because the world is ending, but nobody's stopping what's going on in Palestine. And at that moment, they cut to it, and Hawkgirl and Green Lantern and the what's his name, Synthoid, the Element Man, I don't actually remember his name. They show up in Palestine and they just start Metamorpho, is that his name? They just start killing people. And I really like this because for two reasons, one practical and one ideological. If Superman had come back to save them, I don't know what the lesson would have been, right? The lesson would have been like, well, yeah, if you have a super powerful hero defending you from a country invading, you win, right? That is true. But I think that there would have been a message undercut because the point of sort of the movie, right, this battle between cynicism and naivete, the point that Superman has been making, and I think the point the movie is reinforcing is that, no, it's not naive to be good. You don't need to be naive to be good. You can be good without being naive. If you're good, you can inspire other people to be good, and the consequences that you were worried about fade away. The consequences to Superman intervening in the first place were created by Lex Luthor. They weren't a natural consequence. He was right to intervene. That's the point of the movie. He was right. Superman didn't make a mistake. Lois Lane's questions prompted knowledge from him, but her underlying point was incorrect. He was right to have intervened. It wasn't naive of him to do it. He saved lives, and he inspired other people to save lives again. Before that, Hawkgirl and Green Lantern didn't want to get involved because they thought it would be really risky for them to get involved in international politics. Again, they're just heroes. They're not like envoys of a government, you know? But Superman's selflessness inspired them to go over there and fight on his behalf. And they show up and they just start killing Baravians, by the way. Like the Green Lantern starts like flicking tanks with his magic, and people are getting knocked like 1,000 feet away. Those soldiers are dead. Hawkgirl finds Netanyahu or Ben-Gurion, David Ben-Gurion, and just kills him. Just flies him up in the air and drops him on the ground. And they cut from a shot of him hitting the ground to like an Alka-Seltzer being dropped into a water glass. So from a practical perspective, I'm glad that Superman wasn't there because he doesn't kill, you know? Instead, the explicit message of the movie was, no, you actually can make a positive difference, and you can do it, and you can just kill the bad people, you know? Unambiguously, what the movie was saying. Superman is a Boy Scout. He won't kill, he does what's best. But because he is like how he is, he inspired other people, people who are ready to kill, to go there and stop the invasion, which they did, and they saved a bunch of lives. It sounds crazy and like over the top, but it's true. It's the text of the film. Superman's naivete, which was initially characterized as him not knowing like what he was doing, basically, is reframed, and instead it's noble. It's a source of hope. It's his greatest strength. His ability to want to save people more than he wants to sit back and contemplate the consequences of stopping Israel from invading Palestine. That's a strength, and it inspires other people to be strong. Phenomenal, genuinely, like really, really good. It took every potential problem that I had with the dynamic. I thought Superman would feel like he had to compromise who he was to make this realization, but he didn't. I thought he would like bemoan the changes or the choices that had to be made, or there would be like a grimdark or like an edgy, like the thing in Baravia got so bad that he had to kill somebody and everyone judged him for it or whatever. No, he was a Boy Scout the whole way through. The whole goddamn time, from start to finish, he was the same optimistic, earnest, yeah, he saved the squirrel. Metropolis was under attack by a big alien monster, and he takes a moment to swoop up and save a squirrel that was about to get stepped on. He loves life. He just loves life. He loves life. It's a really good movie. On one hand, it's based for it to be anti-Israel. And by the way, huge paradigm shift. This could not have been more overtly Israel-Palestine if it had tried. Genuinely, it could not have been. It was so on the nose about it, it actually makes me wonder. Spoilers are over, right? No, idiot. It was so over the top with how clear the parallel was. It makes me wonder how he got away with it. I'm not joking. I'm not being hyperbolic. I don't know how Hollywood allowed him to do that. It seems to me like a paradigm shift. Like, you know, you're not, this isn't Louis Theroux or whatever. You're talking about, you're talking about like the most explicit condemnation. They literally kill the Baravian president. I don't know what it's not a condemnation at the end. It's not people rising up. It's not Superman showing back up in Baravia and saying, no, put your guns down, you know I'll stop you, and then they put their guns down and leave. They just show up and kill them. Well, stupid people can't understand subtext. It's not subtext, okay? Zionists online are losing their shit over this movie. You can see them. Everybody knows what this means. Not to mention, one of the first things that he did when he became the head of the DC studio was kill a Gal Gadot Superwoman movie. Not Superwoman, sorry, Wonder Woman movie. Fucking James Gunn locking in, strapping into DC studios, get the f out of here. IDF Barbie. Zoomers are functionally illiterate, remember? Don't be stupid. Everyone knows what this means, okay? Stop trying to outsmart the population. It was very, very clear. Go watch the movie. They killed the president of Baravia. There were no consequences for it. Hawkgirl goes, "Wah!" and then throws him 200 feet to the ground. And there's no consequence in the movie. At no point anywhere in the movie afterwards was anyone like, that could lead to some consequences. Nobody says that. Even the boys at the Pentagon were like, well, that just happened. Like, there's no... Yeah, she said, Haktua! And then threw him as hard as she could down onto the ground, and he died. Basically. It was really good. And it's not just based in that it represents a paradigm shift on Palestine, Israel from Hollywood, but it's also based for how optimistic it was. At the end of the day, the MAGA movement is motivated by cynicism, and so are the establishment Democrats. Cynicism that the voters are stupid and will never wake up to how they're being manipulated. Cynicism to the idea that any kind of change can be made at all, that there's any power behind hope. The death of optimism is the death of politics, because as soon as optimistic people no longer participate, it's cynics from top to bottom. You need people who are willing to be embarrassingly earnest in order to win. Like, dare I say it, Mamdani. I think if you see the movie, I think I'm fair in saying that Mamdani and Superman have a lot of going in parallel in how they present themselves. And I mean that. I'm not trying to be soy. I think that Mamdani's campaign succeeded in large part because of a strategy, a rhetorical strategy that is in line with what the movie is saying is good. It's a little soy. I'm a little bit soy about Superman, you know? Superheroes are American. Superman is American. It's a common mythos, right? It's a uniquely American way of telling stories. And there are good things about that, and there are bad things about that, but it's a good way of delivering a message. Superman is, and I'm sorry if you disagree with this, but you're just wrong, the soul of America. Everything that America is meant to be is encapsulated in him. That's literally what he is. That's the whole point. Everything good, obviously. That's the message. So for a movie, in a time like this, for a movie to come out in which he is so unambiguously on the side of good things in a way that didn't come across to me as cynical, it didn't come across to me as like a liberal hand-wringing. Not to say that it's socialist or whatever, but it didn't end with the president of Moravia getting like denounced by the world and everyone cheered. No, they just killed him. They just killed him. And they didn't have this like over-the-top moment where Superman, in order to get something done, he had to do something he never thought he could do, which was to take a life, and afterwards he was all edgy about it and tearing up and so on. None of this happened. He was just good and great. He was just great. It was a great movie, and it meant a lot to me, you know? I grew up on a lot of DC animated universe stuff. I grew up loving the original superhero movie. I know that we talk down on Hollywood, as we should, because Hollywood sucks. And we talk down on America, which we should because America sucks. But there is a continuity of spirit in Superman specifically from the beginning to now. You know, you've got comics from the 1930s of Superman beating up slumlords, beating up, Hitler in the 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever. You've got this continuous chain, and people have tried to co-opt Superman. Yeah, he's beaten up the KKK. He's gone through time and beaten up. He's always on the right side. You know, he's always on the right side. And I think that's because in spite of efforts to co-opt him, everyone, including the Nazis, understand that no one would buy it. Batman has been made, like, ideologically, he's all over the place, right? There are Batman adaptations where he's unambiguously a fascist, like The Dark Knight Returns. There are adaptations where he's woke. I think that Batman as a character can encompass both of these elements. I think you can make an argument where fascist Batman makes more sense, and I think you can make an argument where, like, progressive woke lord Batman makes more sense. I think that his character is malleable in this way, which is not the case with Superman. Every time Superman has been bad, it's been some AU alt timeline shit in the comics. Overwhelmingly, when Superman is presented in a straight-laced manner, like it's not like an AU thing or whatever, you know what he means. You know exactly what he represents. You know what I mean? You get what I'm talking about, right? One of the most refreshing things about the movie was the fact that not only is Lex Luthor irredeemably, explicitly evil, but his evil actions are never framed to show you that he's evil. It's to reinforce that he's evil. He's never sympathetic. Yeah, no, not for a single moment in the movie is he ever shown sympathetically. They never do any bullshit Thanos nonsense where they're like, well, the guy who's going to kill a quadrillion lives, he actually just like, he thinks he's helping them. Like, fuck that, dude. Just make him completely unsympathetic, which, Injustice Superman and its consequences. I think most people agree that Injustice is ass. Total ass. Just a blight. Also, Zack Snyder's Superman. You mean the Superman who never smiles, never helps people, never interacts with people, never acts like a civilian? Man of Steel too? Well, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I think that the movie was very brave. I think that the movie was very brave in how it oh yeah, the fact that like the place where Lex Luthor takes Superman is a privately maintained like ICE facility. The reason they're able to arrest Superman and detain him the way they do is explicitly because his alien status means that his rights are revoked, and then he's then taken to a privately owned and operated illegal black site facility in a pocket dimension where Lex Luthor takes like political opponents, anyone like he accepts like contract imprisonments there essentially, you know, like any government that's willing to pay him enough to get rid of dissidents and his old girlfriends. Yeah, because he's again completely holistically evil. Very subtle. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just want people to be more earnest and optimistic. Everyone's so goddamn cynical. I'm so sick of cynical superhero movies. I'm sick of cynicism in general. Nuts, watch the movie. Jesus Christ. I want myself to be more optimistic, but it's hard sometimes. Again, for me, the big point was that there is an urge to believe that your help won't matter because the world is too complicated. The world is too big and too nuanced. If you do something that you think helps, in reality it actually won't. Like it's more complicated. When Superman intervened in the Baravian invasion and stopped it, he made things worse, actually. That's the counter argument to the point the movie is making, you know? But then the movie disassembles it completely. The consequences were caused by Lex Luthor. The solution wasn't to capitulate and let him have what he wanted, which would have been Baravia invading people and giving half the land over to Lex Luthor. The solution was to keep pushing forward and to win, and then your goodness inspires goodness in other people. No half measures. If you stop the Baravian invasion, what changes? Well, now people are mad at you. What happens if you stop it a second time, kill a bunch of their troops, and also their prime minister? Well, maybe they'll stop then. Maybe if you show enough strength and enough character and goodwill to overwhelm the intentions of evil people, you don't have to be cynical. Maybe you don't have to be cynical. Maybe goodness can win. You just have to be strong enough. The cynicism would have been the midwit solution. You would have capitulated to the designs of evil people. And it wasn't Superman who did it the second time. Exactly, but that's a good thing. Because Superman is meant to inspire, sure, Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl, but also us. There aren't kids in Palestine raising Superman flags, but there are kids in Palestine hoping that people like us pressure our government into stopping the sale of weapons to Israel. Superman isn't real, but being inspired by Superman is. That is a real thing. Why do you think there's such an overlap between fans of Zack Snyder's Superman and right-wing reactionary/fascists? Probably because Zack Snyder is a reactionary who doesn't understand people or women, and he treats superheroes like shiny action figures for macho men, where you press them against each other and they make like cool sparks and explosions, like with no understanding of the characters. Zack Snyder is a massive hack, and there's a reason why his fan base acts the way that it does. His art is reactionary, his personal politics is supposedly liberal. That makes me think that he's an idiot. Like, that just makes me think that he's stupid. It's a really good movie. I intend on watching it a second time in theaters, which I haven't done for a movie in at least a decade. So you should watch it. He did say he liked Watchmen because it was more violent and sexy than other comics. Yeah, that sounds like something that Zack Snyder would say. Yep, yes, sir. That sounds like, that's very revealing. That is the thought process. Yeah, I think that's probably true, Holic Master. Anyway, I'm giving this my grade A seal of approval. My argument, I guess, is that if you want to improve your life, you should watch this movie and try to model yourself after Superman. If you're autistic and don't know how to behave in a intersocial context, you should watch it and then take cues from that. Now, that's silly? No, it's not. Art is meant to inspire people. See, unlike some of you cynics, I don't buy into the belief that because art, overwhelmingly the main factories of art, the production facilities of art, just because it's been captured by capital, well, it always has been, I suppose, just because Hollywood is the way Hollywood is, I don't think that means it's gay to be inspired by media. That's the entire point of media. For as long as we've been making it, oral tradition, Greek, you know, storytellers, go from generation to generation to generation. I disbelieve this, well, it's all, you know, well, it's just entertainment. You watch it for 2.5 hours and then you skedaddle. I don't believe in that. It's good for things to be aspirational. We need more stuff that's morally instructive. I've been saying this for years. Yeah. We like Breaking Bad. We like The Sopranos. We like stuff. You watch it. You like seeing evil men do interesting things. You like aura and hype moments. But I think it's important for media to be instructive. We came up with it. It's like a civilization. Like we invented it for a reason. It should be morally instructive. You should be inspired by it. It should encourage you to feel like a more complete person in your head. I've made jokes like, you know, if you need Luffy in your head telling you to do the dishes, then there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean that. I'm not just joking. I make it sound silly, but I'm not just joking. It should be inspirational. What's the point of watching a movie or reading a story where there's a character who's noble and admirable and strong, and then you don't come away from that feeling inspired? Are you supposed to engage with those elements of that character, and then you go, well, that happened. Excellent media consumed. Another memory to my brain book. Whoop. And then you just go back to living life exactly the way you did before? Shouldn't you be inspired? I don't know. I think people like these edgy anti-heroes because it allows them to be lazy and give up on improving themselves. I agree. I 100% agree. Oh, wow, look, these guys are like pieces of shit. They're like losers just like me, haha. Yeah, okay, some people are. But like, we're obsessed with those people now. We're obsessed with people like that. Look at how relatable these guys are. Well, you know who was relatable? Superman was relatable. Superman was relatable as shit in that movie. And he didn't do it. He didn't be relatable by being like, oh, haha, he's like fucked up too. He's like lazy too. He was relatable because he's human, and so are you. I like Superman. I love Superman. Yeah, I don't know. I worked on the movie. Glad to hear you really liked it. Did you really? Thank you. I think you've created a work of art. Well, not you on your own. I think you've contributed to the creation of a work of art. That's fantastic. I don't know if you guys have seen the social media buzz, but a bunch of people are, you know, Superman posting in a very like how do you put it? Like I did something nice for my neighbor today, and then they post the picture of Superman at the end when he's smiling and laying back. Lots of really good art. People should be inspired by stuff like this. Also, what a Superman actor, huh? This casting was like divine, phenomenal, really. Where's him laying back? Why can't I find that one? Huh? I never retweeted anything that had that image in it. Whatever. Would you say this Superman was better than the 1978 one? Yes. And I really like the 1978 one. So just keep that in mind. It's this. There we go. Thank you. Help my neighbor carry her groceries today. Watch the damn movie. One thing I've noticed is rightoids tend to prefer edgelord anti-heroes versus lefties who tend to prefer characters who are ultimately good and decent. Well, I mean, like, obviously, to be conservative is to be in favor of evil. And I think the movie was pretty clear on that. But it's worth noting, Superman does not express a single political position in the entire movie. He never says once whether he's pro or anti-choice, anti or pro-racism, for or against any form of bigotry. The only thing he says is that he doesn't like it when people die. That's it. That's literally it. His only position, funnily, is pro-life. That's the only position he actually states in the movie. And that's all it takes. By being pro-life, you already know everything else he believes. He's beyond politics? No, he's not. You know exactly what his positions are in everything. There's no question. And there's a reason why conservatives don't like this movie. You know exactly what he believes in. You know what I mean. Pro-life, pro-humanity. That's what I mean by Superman being the soul of America, okay? You don't need anything else from him. There's no edge case here. There's no position he might have. There's no question. There's nothing to worry about. You know that he's good, and because he's good, he's on our side. It's not a leftism thing, SMH chat. It is. Which is why leftists like him and conservatives don't. It is. To be pro-life is to be on the left. You know what I mean by pro-life. I say anti-choice when I mean anti-choice for abortion, by the way. I mean, liberals love the movie too? Sure. All right, I'm done. No more spoilers. This video is worth a watch. How can you possibly say this video is worth a watch? It came out 47 minutes ago and it's 20 minutes long. Do you have the bell rung for this channel? I'm not familiar with the channel. Dude, I'm so tired. I couldn't have as much coffee as I normally do because I'm out of milk. I don't want to drink that much black coffee. At least not all at once. All right, folks. Papa Cola. I don't like to drink my calories. All right, folks. I love you all very much. I'm afraid I am going to have to defer the dono reads until tomorrow. Oh, did I already do that? No, I just didn't stream yesterday. I'm going to have to do it anyway because it's nearly 4. 4! That's crazy. Nobody's ever streamed that late. Bro doesn't know about Coke Zero. Does Coke Zero have caffeine? Yeah? Okay. I can't believe for so long people have fought to change Superman's costume so he doesn't have the underwear on the outside. But it looks so good. Why have we obsessed for so long over the little greebled sci-fi shiny armor costumes because they're embarrassed to be authentic. I agree. Also, see how the line for the waistband comes up over the belly button? When he wears a suit as Clark Kent, by the way, he's wearing high-waisted trousers and he looks really good, just saying. Divides your body into 1 and 2/3. Just saying, just saying. His suit's also baggier to hide his muscles. That's a classic Clark Kent move. Classic. Does his ass look good in the movie?